Hello everyone. In today's video, we will look at the roundtable conferences and the events related to it. The Viceroy of India, Lord Irwin, and Prime Minister of Britain, Ramsay MacDonald, agreed to a roundtable conference as the recommendation of Simon Commission were inadequate. The first roundtable conference was held in London between November 1930 and January 1931, and it was opened officially by King George V in November 1930 and also chaired by Ramsay MacDonald. The Congress and some prominent business leaders refused to attend, but many other groups of Indians were represented at the conference. These groups were Indian princely states, the Muslim League, the Hindu Mahasabha and its sympathizers, the liberals, depressed class, the Justice Party, Indian Christians, Anglo-Indians. Here, the Government of India was represented by Narendranath, Bhupendranath Mitra, C.P. Ramaswamy Iyer and M. Ramachandra Rao. But the participants were all aware that the roundtable conference was of no success if the Congress and Gandhi did not attend it, as they represented the mass of the country. The members of the Indian Liberal Party such as Tej Bahadur Sapru, C.V. Chintamani and Srinivasa Sastry appealed to Gandhi to talk to the Viceroy. Gandhi and Irwin reached a compromise which came to be known as Gandhi-Irwin Pact, and the second roundtable conference was held again in London from September 7, 1931 to December 1, 1931. The Indian National Congress nominated Gandhi as its sole representative, and in between this, Lord Irwin had been replaced by Lord Wellington as the Viceroy of India. The Labour government in England had been replaced by the National government, and the right wings of Conservatives in Britain, led by Churchill, strongly objected to the British negotiating with the Congress on an equal basis. The lack of the agreement among the many delegate groups meant that no substantial result regarding the Indians' constitutional future would come out, and also the government refused to concede to the basic Indian demand of freedom. The second roundtable conference ended with MacDonald's announcement of two Muslim majority provinces of Northwest Frontier Province and Sindh, and setting up Indian Consultative Committee, also setting up three expert committees of finance, franchise and states. The prospect of a unilateral British communal award if Indians failed to agree. Changes in the government's attitude were seen after the second roundtable conference, and Gandhi would not be permitted to build up a tempo for a mass movement again. The goodwill of the Congress was not required, but the confidence of those who supported the British against the Congress, functionaries, loyalties, etc. were very essential. The national movement would not be allowed to consolidate itself in rural areas. Also, on the failure of the second roundtable conference, the Congress Working Committee decided to resume the civil disobedience movement, and also Viceroy Wellington refused a meeting with Gandhi on December 31st. On January 4, 1932, Gandhi was arrested. The government actions involved a series of repressive ordinances, and Congress organization at all the levels were banned. Gandhi's ashram were occupied. Repression was particularly harsh on women. Press was gagged and nationalist literature was banned. In the first 4 months, the satyagrahis of urban and rural poor were jailed. Also, picketing of shops selling liquor and foreign clothes could be seen. Non-violent demonstrations, celebration of national days, symbolic hoisting of national flags, non-payment of chowkidar tax, salt satyagrah, forest law violation, and installation of a secret radio transmitter near Bombay. But this phase of the movement could not sustain for longer duration. Firstly, because Gandhi and the other leaders had no time to build up the tempo, and the masses were not prepared. Finally, in 1934, Gandhi decided to withdraw the civil disobedience movement. The Communal Awards of 1932 also took a toll on national movement and was an attempt to divide the people on religious lines. The provisions of Communal Award were the Muslims, Europeans, Sikh, Indian Christian, Anglo-Indians, depressed classes, women, and even the Marathas were to get separate electorates. In the provisional legislatures, the seats were to be distributed on communal basis, and the existing seats of the provincial legislature were to be doubled. The other provisions were that the Muslims, wherever they were in minority, were to be granted a weightage, and except for Northwestern Frontier Province, 3% of seats were to be reserved for women in all the provinces. The depressed classes to be declared or accorded with the status of minority, and the depressed classes were to get double vote. One they can use in separate electorates and the other in general electorates. Allocations of seats were to be made for labourers, landlords, traders, and industrialists. In the province of Bombay, 7 seats were to be allocated for the Marathas. The Congress response was neutral to the communal awards. They decided neither to accept it nor to reject it. The effort to separate the depressed class from the rest of the Hindus by treating them as separate political entities was opposed by all the nationalists. On the other hand, Gandhi saw the communal award as an attack to the Indian unity and nationalism. He thought it was harmful to both Hinduism and to the depressed classes since it provided no answer to the socially degraded position of the depressed classes. He also said that what was required was not protection of the so-called interest of the depressed classes but root and branch eradication of the untouchability. He demanded that the depressed classes to be elected through joint electorate and, if possible, a wider electorate through universal franchise. While expressing no objection to the demand for a larger number of reserved seats and to press his demands, he went on an indefinite fast on September 20, 1932. To break the watertight situation between Gandhi and Ambedkar, Poona Pact was signed on September 24, 1932. The Poona Pact abandoned the idea of separate electorates for the depressed classes, but the seats reserved for the depressed classes were increased from 71 to 147 in the provincial legislature and 18% of the total in the central legislature. The Poona Pact was accepted by the government as an amendment to the communal award. The third roundtable conference was held between November 17, 1932 and December 24, 1932. It was not attended by the Indian National Congress and Gandhi, and it was ignored by most of the Indian leaders too. Like in the previous two conferences, little was achieved by this conference also, and the recommendations were published in white paper in March 1933. A joint select committee was formed to analyze the recommendation and formulate a new Act of India, and that committee produced a draft bill in February 1935, which was enforced as the Government of India Act 1935 in July 1935. Determined to undo the divisive intentions of the government's divide and rule policy, Gandhi gave up all his other preoccupations and launched a campaign against untouchability. First from jail and then after his release in August 1933 from outside the jail. While in jail, he set up the All India Anti-Untouchability League in September 1932 and started the weekly Harijan in January 1933. After his release, he shifted to Satyagrah Ashram in Wardha as he vowed in 1930 not to return to Sabarmati Ashram unless Swaraj was won. He conducted a Harijan tour of the country and also collecting money for his newly set up Harijan Sevak Sangh and propagating removal of untouchability of all forms. Throughout his Harijan tour social work, Gandhi stressed on certain themes. He put forward a damning indictment of Hindu society for kind of oppression practiced on Harijans. He called for total eradication of untouchability, symbolized by his plea to throw open temples to the untouchables. He also said Hinduism dies if untouchability lives. Untouchability has to die if Hinduism is to live. His entire campaign was based on principle of humanism and reasons, and he said that the Shastras do not sanction untouchability, and if they did, they should be ignored as it was against human dignity. Gandhi's Harijan campaign included a program of internal reform by Harijans covering education, cleanliness, hygiene, also giving up on eating beef and consumption of liquor, the removing of untouchability among themselves. Gandhi repeatedly described the campaigns as not a political movement but as being primarily meant for purification of Hinduism and Hindu society. Gradually, the campaign carried the message of nationalism to Harijan, also happened to be the agricultural laborers in most parts of the country, leading to their increased participation in the national and peasant movements. Thank you for watching the video. I hope it was informative. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel.